In this video, I want to work more on the interaction portion of working with our objects. So for example, if I drag out this, let me actually scale the mesh itself down. Let's do 0.2. Okay, when we pick up an object, we can move it closer, farther away, but I want to be able to have it set up so when I hold the right mouse button, I can move it around based upon my mouse movement. So I want to be able to rotate the object around. Look at our project settings, axis mappings. We have this called turn. That uses our mouse X, and we have our mouse Y for look up. So we can use these kind of in conjunction with the inputs. So let's scroll up to that, where they are currently telling add controller y'all input and all that kind of stuff. So if we look at that, parameters it just takes in the value. So what we can do is create a function that this calls instead, that also calls this in the meantime, based upon whether or not our right mouse button is being held down. So let's just set up the right mouse button being held down first. So let's add a new action mapping, and let's call this one examining. So let's do right mouse button for the press. Or let's call it examine. Does it have any? I'm gonna agree how to spell that. Okay, it does have an E. So we have examine, and it's set to our right mouse button. We're going to bind the action. Call it examine. And we need to set up the function to be called. So let's do interpolate held item. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to do it. We'll do it right under perform line trace. Or better yet, under move item farther. Under that little section, we're going to do void. Examine item, or set examine item. Generate the implementation, and we're going to do a check. So if held item, we want to toggle a boolean for this. So bool b is examining. It's going to be our boolean. So we set b is examining to equal true. So let's go up to our setup player input, examine. Let's call the function set examining item. And we want to call it as well when, well, actually, let's rename this to IE underscore released and call the other one stop examine item. So let's create another function. Call it stop examine item. Create some implementation and set B is examining to equal false. And that should take care of this. Okay, next up we want to do B is examining. We want to set that equal to false by default. And I'm going to actually minimize a lot of these because I don't really need them for the time being. And I'd say we're pretty much good to go. Okay, so set examine item and stop examine item. So we're only going to examine if we have a held item. And if we do, that's pretty much going to dictate what our mouse movement does. So we have the turn, let's see, minimize, move forward and move right. We have our turn at rate and lookup rate, and that's pretty much what lookup rate and turn rate are calling. So we can actually call the exact same thing with our turn. Like so, and it should give us the same result. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down the editor and give it a relaunch and make sure that everything still works. Okay, hit play. And we still have our mouse movement. What we can do now is let's head on down to this function here, and we're going to do a check. So if B is examining, we run something. Otherwise, we will perform our input. So let's give that a try. Move around, hold right mouse button. And I'm still able to move my input, pick up the object, hold right mouse button, and I cannot move until I let go, in which case I regain control. So I can still move around, I just can't move my mouse until I let go of my right mouse button. So that's good to go. So what we can do now is we need to do our check here to control the item's rotation. So just to be safe, if, let's see, what do you call it? What was it, held? Yeah, held item, to make sure it's valid. We want to rotate it upon, let's see, that would be the, which axis is that? I think, is this yaw? I think that's yaw. So we want to get the current rotation. So F rotator, current rotation equals held item, get active rotation. Now let's modify it. So we want to increment the yaw based upon the rate's value. So for now, we're going to do current rotation dot yaw plus equals, let's do rate times 2 just to kind of see where we're at. Then set it. So held item, set active rotation, current rotation. So this will just be for the time being. So there we have that. It's rotating back and forth, actually quite smoothly. So now let's look at the, we're going to do the pitch. We're going to change yaw to pitch and give that a try. Pick it up. And now we can move it around kind of as needed. However, I notice there's this hard limit here. So there's some going left to right's just fine. But I can't go past some limit. So I think part of it that's making this very difficult is the animation itself. So I don't like that it's, our idle animation is, what do you call it? Playing the constant kind of breathing. So it's making our head move around a lot. I don't like that. So I'm wondering if there's a way. I'm going to do a quick little glance into the animation blueprint because I'm curious. There's state machine, idle. We have this guy. Okay, so I could replace this with just a simple non-moving one. Is there a way to... I was wondering if there's a way to switch between which one actually plays, depending on if you're the local player or not, without having to have them all linked up with a separate state machine. I guess, I'll just leave it. We'll just have to deal with it for now. Anyways, we have that moving okay. So we just have to, let's print out the value for pitch. So UV log temp, warning, text, pitch, %f, current rotation.pitch. Let's print that out. So hold right mouse button, 75, rotate forwards, and it stops at 90. Let's rotate all the way back, and it stops at positive 90. As you can see, it's getting clamped between those two values, and it cannot go beyond it. So we almost want to do that kind of value, so we multiply it by, like if it's equal to or exceeding, we want to jump back. So if we hit 90, we want to go to negative 90 and that sort of thing. I also, out of curiosity, I want to see, I can't tell if that's just my mouse moving or what. Let's try this. So yeah, it's just rotating along the world's axis. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to try to rotate along I'm curious about the relative rotation. So that'll be something to tinker with here, probably in a later video. But for the time being, that's probably how I'm going to leave it. Just because we do have it to where something's in place. And again, we're just kind of doing the basic layout for the game. We will eventually kind of do some small improvements, and this will be one of them. But anyways, that's going to be all for this video. And if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon down in the description below, where I have a team deathmatch series for Unreal Engine with C++. And we have a bunch of other features in there like weapon customization, custom spawning, as well as you get early access to my videos. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord that's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.